The bucket system is no foreign concept to the average South African. For this informal settlement, it is no different. Some residents have lived here for over 20 years and have never seen a built toilet with a flushing mechanism.
It's been a long time without toilets in this area. I was using a pit latrine toilet and now is getting full. It's been more than 20 years staying in this area. I wish government can help us with our complaints.
Over 25 years, they shall have area.
I'd be so happy to get a toilet because it's difficult for me. I have asthma. The toilet we have isn't good for my chest. I find myself trying to catch my breath.
In other areas of the bay, people have the same issues. These temporary structures that were meant for COVID relief are now seemingly turning into permanent homes with improper services.
It feels so bad. It feels like I've gone back, regressed, to live on this dry, open piece of land without water. If we go to the toilet, we have to relieve ourselves in our homes and throw it outside. We are fighting with each other because of the bad smells here.
The Nelson Mandela Bay Metro admits it has a housing and service backlog. However, some areas are just not able to get proper toilet systems and other services because of where they are situated.
The Nelson Mandela Bay Metro has developed various strategies to actually eradicate the buckets over the last virtually 20 years already. We had as much as 35,000 buckets in the metro historically. We've progressively reduced that to 6,000 at the moment. Unfortunately, there was a spate of increase of our informal settlements in areas that cannot be normally serviced by normal waterborne sanitation that the municipality provided, and therefore we had to look at other forms of sanitation. Although the bucket system is not dignified as I've indicated, we've reduced that, but at the same time we're trying to eradicate that form of sanitation but also provide basic sanitation to the other more than 100 informal settlements that are scattered throughout the metro at this point in time.
Regardless of the logistical issues many municipalities face, the effects of a dysfunctional bucket system remain dire.
Spillages and overflow could lead to contamination that could seep into the ground or be washed into surface water bodies, leading to risks to the health of users of these water bodies. Water or food could become contaminated, and this could be linked to transmission of diarrheal diseases. Examples of this could be dysentery, cholera, typhoid fever, and intestinal worm infestations, including schistosomiasis, which is more commonly known as bilharzia. Young children are often more frequently exposed as they could end up playing in the stagnant water or swimming in waters that have been contaminated or infested.
In 2003, Cabinet adopted a framework for water and sanitation that promised to completely eradicate the bucket toilet system by the year 2006. Nearly 20 years later, the problem is as rife as ever, infringing on the human rights of many.
In light of this, the South African Human Rights Commission will, in addition to conducting extensive monitoring exercises in affected communities, engage closely with the legislature given its oversight function over organs of state. Such engagements will include, but be not limited to, briefing the relevant committees in the National Assembly and the National Council of Provinces. Ultimately, if no material change is recorded over a period and the trend indicates a regression, the Commission, guided by its powers, will consider launching strategic impact litigation.
Although over 40,000 people still use the bucket system in South Africa, the number has decreased over the years. Kim Daniels, SABC News, Gqeberha.
Now let's get into this conversation and remind you, in fact, of those stats. Globally, 3.6 billion people are still living with poor quality toilets that ruin their health and pollute their environment. Inadequate sanitation systems spread human waste into rivers, lakes and soil, contaminating the water resources under our feet. safely managed sanitation protects groundwater from human waste pollution. Now, let's discuss this. We're now joined via Zoom by Dr. Jennifer Molantwa, Chief Executive Officer at the Water Research Commission. Thank you so much for your time this afternoon, Doctor. Now, talk to us about just the significance of today being Toilet Day and, of course, the theme, making the invisible visible.
Thank you very much. I would like to take this opportunity, thank you, Unati, to just mention that today we mark the celebration, or we mark and recognize it as Global Toilet Day, World Toilet Day. For us in South Africa, I think this is a very sobering moment, because we still recognize that irrespective of the strides that have been made by the democratic government in terms of trying to make sure that, as per the Constitution, everybody has a right to water and sanitation, that some of the people in South Africa are not able to access water and sanitation. But more importantly, with those that also have access, there are still a lot of disparities related to where you come from and the kind of sanitation you get. And here we talk to issues around the unserviced urban informal settlements, some of the rural areas, as well as tribal areas, tribal lands and trust lands, where the municipal services has not yet been serviced today. But also, even in the cities, depending on where you come from, not everybody has got an experience of what we call the flushing toilet. And we believe that having good sanitation and servicing people with good sanitation, it's actually dignity. And it's one of the reasons why we say that there may be equality if only we can be able to all access equal sanitation and at least experience good experience when we need to relieve ourselves.
I would imagine that it is a failure that in South Africa, the bucket system still exists. I mean, if you were listening to that report by Kim Daniels, was saying a little under 40,000 people still using pit latrine toilets in this country. I mean, that is dismal. But let's look at some of the stats that the WHO specifically has talked about. Around, 65% of South Africa's population have access to waterborne sanitation, such as flushing toilets connected to some form of sewer network or septic tank or conservancy tank, but another 19% have ventilated improved pit latrines, while 13% have pit toilets with no ventilation pipes. At this rate, would you say, we are on track to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals, number 6, which promises sanitation for all by 2030, which is in a few years' time?
I think, Unat, it's important to note that South Africa, as a signatory of the United Nations, is resolute on striving to achieve the SDG goals, in particular SDG 6, which talks to water and sanitation. However, when we're talking about the bucket system, for example, we need to note that when an informal settlement, for example, just mushrooms, then people always find ways in which to service themselves. And then we also look at the norms and standards, which says what is the minimum, the bare minimum that people should be provided for in terms of sanitations. And that is where we are looking at some VIP toilets, but then also in some trust lands, like I said, which are not serviced, you find that people are still using pit latrines. But I think of most importance is the work that has been done at the Water Research Commission in collaboration with the Department of Science and Innovation, in collaboration with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, where we have actually done cutting-edge research on innovation of sanitation technology. And here we are saying, instead of trying to fix the sanitation and provide everybody what is available, let us look into the future, because we cannot fix things from the past for the current crisis. We need to take into cognizance the fact that climate change, it's a challenge that we're going to face from now going forward. The availability of water, it's going to be a crisis that we're going to face going forward. Therefore, we need to be sustainable, we need to be innovative, and we need to be thinking smarter and in an integrated approach to say, how then best do we provide sanitation that is differentiated for our people? It is such cutting edge technology that, we call it the Tesla of toilets. In fact, one would be able to buy themselves a toilet, albeit it is a human right as per the Constitution, but you'll be able to buy it as you'd buy a microwave or a dishwasher, even a cell phone. And therein lies the opportunity, I think, for a policy position, for the government, human settlements to be thinking around these new innovation and technologies that have been developed to say, how then do we better service our people? What is an opportunity about this is that you don't even need to be having, your sewer infrastructure, your stormwater infrastructure, but you can be able to localize it and be able to treat with limited or no additional water. So the water is reused, it's separated from the solid waste, and the solid waste is also disinfected. It is, pressurized to be able to be disposed. So this provides an opportunity for quality of water. It provides opportunity for waste management, and we need to be thinking in that space. What needs to be done, I think, currently by the country is that this is innovation. So when you've innovated a technology, we need to be creating an economy around this. We need to be creating spaces where the innovators can at least get into the space of manufacturing. And this needs political will and support to be able to make sure that these are able to be procured by those departments that provide water and sanitation for our people.
All right, Doctor, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. That's where we have to leave our conversation. Dr. Jennifer Moladwa is the Chief Executive Officer at the Water Research Commission.